Hello and welcome back to this month's episode of Unstoppable. We've got a lot to unpack for you as we close out the fall season and jump right into all things winter sports. Joining me here at the desk for the very last time before he ventures on over to Vienna next semester, Parker Jensen. Parker, what do we have going on this episode?
We have a great show for you guys today. We'll start off by giving you a quick update on some of your favorite fall sports to see how they rounded off their season. We also have our updates on men's and women's basketball, talking about what they need to fix and what appears to be a faulty start for both teams. I know you don't want to miss that. We also have our eyes on volleyball, water polo, squash, and a quick preview of both men's and women's swimming. And finally, to wrap it all up, we're bringing out your favorite hot takes host, Savannah Guide, out here to throw Isabelle and me into the fire for your hot take segment. It's a show you won't want to miss.
All of this and more on Unstoppable.
Welcome back. It appears a new bar has been set for the women's soccer team. This season saw the women finish off the year going 14-3-4, losing twice to St. Louis in their final 4 games, once during the regular season and once in the A-10 championship. And while I can rave about this team for an entire show, let me just give you the highlights. This team's second loss came at the very end of the season. They outscored opponents 43-25, doubled their opponents' assists, had 50 fewer saves thanks to great defensive play and a controlling offense, and had a higher shots on goal percentage. It was all capped off when sophomore Hannah Saluski got invited to the U.S. women's training camp before heading to the A-10 championship. It won't be easy getting back to this type of fortitude, but with the solid core of sophomores returning for their junior stints, expect a dominant return for a team who won't stop raising the bar. And now to give us the rest of the picture is our own Grace Stevenson. Grace, what are you looking at with this team?
Well, I think this team has had a really promising season, overall record of 14-3-4 with a conference record of 7-1-2, which is one of the highest in the A-10 this season. So I think the GW should be really proud for their season this year.
I think they had an extremely dominant run, especially considering last year. But what really surprises me the most is just how many sophomores are on this team. You look at Rachel Sorkin. She's a redshirt sophomore. She has so much left to play for the rest of the season. You look at Sylvia Pavon. You look at even Maria Perea. She's been a dominant force on this team as well. You look at a lot of transfers coming onto this team. Who specifically do you think going into the next few years we should take a look at besides Rachel Sorkin? I know we talk about her a lot on this show, but any transfers that are catching your eye in terms of on defense or on the offensive front?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even though we're losing Sophia Pavon, she's obviously had a great season, but Maria Perea and Sammy Neiman are really promising sophomores, both midfielders. Maria had a career high of 6 goals and 4 assists this season, and Sophia started all 21 games this season and 5 assists in a game span. She's critical for scoring those goals and helping with that. So I think those two are definitely two to look for, as well as the goalie, a transfer from Kentucky, Tamaki Machi, really strong player. 77 regular season saves this year, so I'm really proud of that and looking forward to that for next season.
All right, and so first off, Grace, it's great to have you out here at the desk.
Thanks.
And second, I wanted to just highlight a couple of the games that you had mentioned. And so LaSalle, UMass, and Fordham, what about those 3 games that had really stood out to you looking at this team?
Yeah, absolutely. So these 3 teams, LaSalle, UMass, and Fordham, have all been also really good in the A-10 this year. So these 3 wins were big wins for GW. LaSalle sophomore Maria Perea had a really impressive game. She scored in her 4th consecutive game, so that was really big for her. In the UMass game as well, Sorkin came out big again, leading with 6 shots on goal, 41 for the season. And then with Fordham, it was our 8th win in total of a 19 matchups, so we pulled ahead of all the matchups against Fordham in the past of GW, with goals from Megan McCormick and Maddie Coyne. So those were really notable and momentum builders for this season.
Sure. So you mentioned Rachel Sorkin. She is definitely a player that we've seen named basically every single time she goes out and plays. What is it about her that is so special? And, you know, going off of what Parker had said before, with such a young, strong force on this team, how do you see this being a helpful force going forward into next season?
Yeah, I think she's really good when it counts, you know, and she's really helpful with scoring goals. She's a big forward player, which is obviously key, but I think she also melds well with the team. I mean, off and on the field, that's obviously important. So I think she shows a lot of potential for further leadership down the line, potential captain maybe, but you never know, but really impressed with her performance.
Well, there's not a lot to really nitpick on this team. I think they have a really successful future ahead of them. Grace, thank you so much for joining us at the desk. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
The men's soccer team closed out their season with a 5-11-1 record, ultimately losing their final match of the season to the Dayton Flyers 1-2. But despite the losing season, 3 key players were recognized for A10 All-Conference honors, including Hawker Hilmarson and Noah Lubin with the All Academic Award and Liam Emson with the All Rookie Award. We'll be keeping a close eye on the rookie players as they take on their new leadership roles next season, hopefully changing the dynamic on the team going forward.
Well, it's sad to announce the end of an era, but man, did they go out in style. Finishing second at the 8-10s and 9th in the NCAA Mid-Atlantic Championships respectively, this team set some historic milestones for the program. Their 9th place finish was the program's first ever top 10 finish at that event, and Suzanne Danaheim finished with the 3rd best 6K in program history and is the 2nd Colonial to reach the NCAA national meet, joining Margaret Hogan, who did it a decade ago. Seeing it Suzanne's last year at GW, it brings into question what will happen next year, but with Margaret Coogan and Maria Morrow leading the charge, it looks like this program is still in good hands.
The women's volleyball team continues to fight on as they enter into the A10 championships, finishing out their regular season with a 15-13 record. The team has had somewhat of an unpredictable season thus far, but they've managed to secure a number 4 seed going into the A10s. Make sure to tune into our up-to-date coverage on how the women are doing going forward into the championships.
Continuing on my trend of praising teams, the water polo team has been taking this season in stride, going 20-8 heading into championship play. Attican Destici and Andrew Mavis have proved why they're some of the best to ever do it in this program in their game against 14th-ranked Bucknell. Mavis put up 14 goals on the day, matching his career high, while Destici set career highs with 9 goals and 14 points. Andras Levy also maintained high production, leading the team in points, and Jordan Blosser holds one of the team's best scoring percentages. While their dominance has been established, they do have a large core of seniors, which will make it even more interesting seeing if they can cap off their season with yet another championship.
We're taking a quick commercial break right now, but when we come back, we've got some of your favorite winter sports to talk about. Stay tuned.
All right, we'll be ready in about 5 minutes.
I'll be ready. While these guys finish up, I got a few things I want to show you. Come with me. Over the summer, we gave a lot of things a new fresh coat of paint and a new look, including the Vern Shuttle Express. Take a look at this. Oh, there you are. I thought I'd lost you. Come on with me. I want to show you the new all-you-can-eat dining option out at the Mount Vernon campus. Hey, I can charge my phone in here. I'm stuffed. You got to try the mac and cheese. It's great. I got one more stop to make. I got to get my gear for the year. Let's go to the bookstore. You can't have too many GW ties. You need to get out in your buff and blue. I want to see at all the events and the games, raising GW high. One of the things I heard from a lot of our students is we need more community space, a place to eat, study, hang out with friends. Like this one. This is one of our new spaces. We need to get going. Got to get back. This is going to be an exciting year.
And action.
Welcome back.
Now for the moment you've all been waiting for, it's time to talk about men's basketball. With a brand new head coach, new transfer players, and even a new atmosphere in the Smith Center, there's something different about this season that's got us on the edge of our seats. While the team fell short to Towson in its season opener 58-72, they were leveraging about the same number of rebounds throughout the game and kept a consistent energy. The energy inside the Smith Center during the team's home opener against Howard was unlike anything we've covered here on Unstoppable. The record-breaking student turnout wasn't the only thing that kept the momentum going, as Arnoldo Toro stepped back into the action, having missed the past 26 games last season, and came right back on top with a career high of 22 points and 18 rebounds. The game ended with a secure 76-62 victory for the Colonials, with the help from other key players like first-year Jameer Nelson Jr. and senior Justin Williams, both names you'll want to keep a lookout for going forward this season. After losing in a buzzer-beater toss-up against American University 67-65 and once again to Morgan State 68-64, it seems like the Smith Center energy isn't enough to keep the team going, as they've lost to both these teams by only a couple points. Joining us here at the desk to break it all down for us, our basketball expert, Savannah Guida. Savannah, what's different about this season?
Well, guys, if you look at this team right now, they are currently 1-3, and at this time last year they were 0-5, and they were losing those first 5 games by an average margin of 17.6 points. Like Isabelle mentioned, their last 2 losses were not very far from wins. They lost to American by a buzzer beater, and they lost to Morgan State by a 4-point deficit. And I truly believe that those losses could have easily been wins, and they could have won if they had just fixed those mistakes, such as missed free throws.
Well, I think one thing that we need to look at, though, is look at last season, the latter half of that season, right? They're losing those close games, and that's what we're seeing with the past 2 games here with American and Morgan State. And so that's a little bit concerning. Now, I understand that Jamie Christian's implementing this new kind of culture with this team, love over everything, and I appreciate that. I think it's a really good mentality going forward. But if you're going to lose these clutch games like this, I think it's time to be a little bit on edge, a little bit concerned with how the season's going to go, especially with tight competition later on in the season.
Well, Parker, I don't think it's time to sound the alarms quite yet. I mean, we are only a couple of games in so far, and like Savannah said, at this point last year they were 0-5. We are 1-3 right now, and not to mention, these are games that we're losing by a couple points. There's definitely room to improve, and I definitely think that, like Savannah said, these are manageable tactics that we can definitely improve on. So I don't know what you might think of going forward, Savannah, with these sort of games.
Yeah. Guys, I mean, despite the record, despite the scores, those really aren't major concerns for Jamie and Christian. He's more focused on improvement and learning from those losses, and even though losing a game might not be great, it could be very beneficial to the team because they could watch the film and they see what went wrong and they can easily fix those mistakes. And we've seen glimpses of greatness that give me a lot of hope and keep me very optimistic. Sean Walker Jr. had his first career start versus Morgan State. He played 30-plus minutes and dominated the game. Jameer Nelson Jr., another freshman, is currently leading the team with 50 points. Jamison Battle, another freshman, is tied for second among freshmen in the country with the most 3-pointers. So we see a lot of greatness, and of course, returning player Arnaldo Toro, who broke the A10 record for the most single game rebounds with 24 rebounds against American. He's had 2 double-doubles this season against Howard and American, and he's been doing great.
Well, I mean, to your credit, yes, I think Arnaldo Toro has done a fantastic job this season. I talked with him before the season started. I got a one-on-one interview with him. I asked him, what are you going to do going into this season? He said, I'm just going to play well. I'm going to start to lead this team, especially with a lot of new guys coming in, and he's been doing exactly that. He's been tearing it up this season, especially in the first game that we saw against Howard, the home opener. He did amazing in that game, putting up a lot of points. I think he led the points for GW in that game, and the rebounds in that game was astounding. That stat line was incredible. So I think he's going to be very interesting. And like you said, Jameer Nelson Jr. as a freshman, going to be very exciting. My only concern, we've seen a lot of breakout freshmen, especially over the course of GW's tenure, especially with players like Jair Bolden and to an extent Justin Mazzulla. So it could be a little bit concerning with these breakout freshmen. But like you said, I think with these players in particular going forward, it's going to be good. I'm just concerned, again, with the close games like that and being clutch. That's the only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about going into the season.
Well, and I also think that Coach Christian will definitely keep a good handle on those new freshmen, especially with the amount of talent that they're exerting this season. I mean, second among freshmen in the country with the most 3-pointers at GW. What? We have that? I mean, this season is going to be absolutely insane. And I know that we've had a rough start so far, but I really do think that there's something different about this season, and we're just going to have to see and how it plays out. I mean, yeah. I don't know how you think it'll play out for the rest of the season.
And it's also important to note that Jamie and Christian has been changing the lineup almost every game. It's not the same consistent lineup. He's putting in different players. He's trying to find what players work best together, where they are most cohesive. And I also want to point out that Arnaldo Toro sat out for most of the game versus Morgan State. He only played for 2 minutes before he was sidelined with a lower body injury. So that game was a matter of figuring out how to play without Toro. I mean, the team only had 29 total rebounds when he alone scored 24 rebounds in a game. So it's still a matter of figuring out which players work well together, who will complement each other in the best way possible.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Savannah. It's always a pleasure having you here at the desk.
Always.
Let's jump on over to Parker and talk about women's basketball.
Well, it's a new look for the women's team with the addition and the implementation of numerous transfers, some old, some new, all ready to play. And it's not your regular faces leading this team either. Zambroda and Hajduk have been leading the team in scoring this year, while Nilaluma has somewhat regressed. She does, however, lead the team in rebounds with 5.8 per game. The issue here is one we see with every team when it's a ragtag team of recruits and transfers. No one knows who's in charge. They had close games, and despite their absolute blowout loss to Princeton, they're looking fairly decent when it comes to depth. The challenge is integration, and with the league with such elite talent, the problem is making sure they get it fixed soon. I'm extremely optimistic about Zambroda's aggressive scoring, her playmaking ability, and her leadership, and I like seeing what Luma and Mokwa's rebounding ability is looking like. I just need more cohesiveness on the floor. And I'm not seeing the implementation of Levy and Gums in the way that we might have expected with their performances last year. Gums especially, who proved to be a sneaky option late in the year. It will take time to see the results with this team, and the only factor now is when. Joining us now is a person who's been tracking this team along with me since his freshman year, our very own Gus Eckstein. Gus, what have you been seeing with this team this year?
It's really a story, Parker, of young and transfer students, like you were saying, especially freshmen Tori Hajduk and Faith Bethlin. They both were twice state players, all-state players in high school from New Jersey and Maine, respectively. But also, Bethlin was the finalist for Miss Maine basketball, which is a prestigious award that we can only guess what it's about. But still, they both have had about 10 points per game and about 30 minutes per game in the first 4 games of the season, going 2-2 so far with the Colonials. These young talents are really giving a bright future to our program, and it's exciting to see them integrate with a transfer like Zambroda.
Well, I think Zambroda has been absolutely dominant. I want to talk about her for a little bit because I think she was the breakout star we might not have been expecting. Again, in that kind of one-on-one interview, no one really talked to Zambroda, and I don't think anyone really anticipated her breakout season. Now, to be fair, she did help Louisville get to the Final Four berth her sophomore year. She was a redshirt last year. She didn't play. She was on the bench quite a bit. And again, we didn't really see this breakout mentality from her. At least a lot of people in the media didn't really see it that way. She's been doing absolutely amazing, and I think she's taken the leadership a little bit from Nilaluma. Now, Nilaluma obviously was fantastic last year. She was really the core and really the leadership and the young leadership going into future years, but I think that's really going to be Zambroda going forward, especially as a redshirt junior, and she has a few more years going with the GWU program. I think it's going to be interesting to see the dynamic between the two.
Yeah, Gus, I want you to talk a little bit about Coach Rosati. She has been here for the past 4 years, and she has a 49-44 record, as you have here with your Vamp notes. So can you just talk a little bit about what she's going to be doing this season?
She's a really good coach, and although there have been some talks maybe about the fact that she's having trouble communicating her message, it's clearly a good one. She knows what she's talking about. She played for Connecticut for 4 years, which is, of course, the most prestigious women's basketball team in the country. She won their first national championship way back in 1995. And so far this year, she seems to have the team on a really good path with this young talent. Recently, she was actually named to the U.S. women's national team coaching staff that's going to go to Tokyo in 2020. And it's just a really exciting time for her, I think, as well as the program.
Now, Gus, talk to me a little bit about the depth. Because Coach Rosati, she's spoken time and time again about the depth of this team. That's her pride and joy this season, especially with a whole bunch of transfers coming in this year, and kind of the lack of that returners coming into this season. Tell me a little bit about what we're seeing there in terms of players on the court, how they're implementing their offensive schemes, their defensive schemes, and just the players in general.
So the unusual situation, because 11 of the 13 players are either transfers or new, it's given them the opportunity to kind of rotate a lot. And therefore, we're able to get all these new players onto the court. And 11 of the 13, in fact, have played over 10 minutes a game thus far in the season, which has been a big factor in not only getting experience this year, in a year where you have a bunch of young players and not as many seniors. Of course, we have 2 grad students and a senior on the team, but it really bodes well for the future of this program as well.
Well, I think one thing to look at, too, is just their implementation of 3 points and how they're going to actually use their offensive schemes. But I think the depth is something to look at. I think that's going to be very optimistic going in the future. But, Gus, thank you so much for joining us at the desk. Really greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
The women's squash team were predicted to uphold their number 15 nationally ranked position this upcoming season. And so far, they're off to a pretty decent start. The team kicked off their season in no better way with a clean 9-0 sweep against Georgetown, with junior Zoe Fu-Yuk Han continuing to maintain a leading presence on the court after securing a number 12 ranked position in the CSA last season, a program high for GW. Despite the clean sweep against Georgetown, GW fell short to number 3 ranked Princeton 8-1, again with Fu Yakhan leading the charts with the only GW victory throughout the course of the match. It's difficult to say whether or not GW will maintain their number 15 rank, and here to answer that question for us is our very own Richie Wright. So, Richie, give us a lowdown on what exactly is happening with this squash team.
So far, it's been a pretty decent start, like you said. Junior Fu Yakhan has done really well. She's got a win streak of 3 games now, and she's looking to equal or better her record last year of 13 wins for the whole season. And even for the rest of the team, that loss to Princeton wasn't awful. They had a few matches that went the distance, some of the players getting set off, but they couldn't just pull through.
Sure, and so just to harp on Fu Yakhan, she is definitely a key player, definitely anchoring the team. What about some other players that aren't on her exact level? How are they able to match her level?
Well, I think they definitely have to look to her for guidance because she's pulling through these games, and she's only dropped 1 game so far, and that's really impressive. So I think they definitely have to. We have 2 new freshmen as well as a new sophomore who just transferred over, and they've put up some decent results, not wins, but they're definitely working their way toward that, I think.
Well, I think you're seeing a similar trend with the men's team, which we'll talk about in a little bit, especially with Princeton and Virginia. I mean, these are 2 hotly contested teams. I mean, these 2 are some of the best in the nation. We could see it not only with the ranking, but their performances against this women's team. Very similar with the men's too. They're having a lot of difficulty there, but I think something that we can look forward to, again, is the leadership of Fu Yakhan, but also just their established dominance that we've seen throughout over the course of the year. I think both of them are very intertwined in terms of dominance, in terms of how they do during the season. But something I want to ask you, coming up later on, I mean, we're looking at the Washington Jefferson Cup. We're looking at a few other matches going on this season. What do you think is going to be the biggest thing that we need to look for going on for the rest of the season?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we're going to definitely have to see Fu Yakhan leading the path toward victory, and we're going to need to see the seniors and juniors stepping it up because they've been on the team now for 2-3 years, so they need to make sure that they're able to get more results and lead better results in the end.
Sure, and I guess just to wrap it up here, Richie, who are some other players that we definitely need to keep an eye out for the remainder of this season?
Engi Elmondo is another, she's the co-captain who's a senior. She had a really strong showing against Princeton, and she's definitely one to look out for because I think she's one of the other strongest players on the team.
All right, well, thank you so much, Richie, and we'll be sure to keep an eye out on the women's squash team.
Coming up, our own Bella Corshane and Sam Belsky will give you more recaps of your favorite sports teams as we enter the rundown. Stay with us.
This is the all-new GW Shuttle bus for our Vern Express and VSTC Express, making the same stops on the same schedules, but with some major upgrades. Oh look, here you are now. Look how happy you are. This is one of your drivers. Look how happy he is. Smile and wave at him. Learn your driver's name. What do all those buttons do? Everything. What does the most important button do? Wi-Fi. If you're on the shuttle, you're connected. You'll be tweeting about the smooth ride, snapping about our leather seats, and everything will be hashtag seatbelts, hashtag air conditioning, hashtag blessed. Every bus is full of USB charging stations. Every shuttle is equipped with a bike rack. We can get every GW student where they need to go, and you'll always find your ride now that we're decked out in a beautiful, bumper-to-bumper, buff and blue. Where can you hop on these wonderful new shuttles? You can pick up the Mount Vernon shuttle at Funger Hall or at the Red Cross building. Heading to VSTC, we'll pick you up at Funger and stop at 4 VSTC buildings before heading back to Foggy Bottom. So hop aboard our new shuttle buses. Sleep easy and dream about what really matters. That deli bagel.
Welcome back to The Rundown, a look at some of your favorite GW sports. I'm Bella Corshane, and with me here is Sam Belsky.
The men's squash team has fallen to a 1-2 record, with their first win coming against crosstown rival Georgetown in a clean sweep. The 2 losses, however, is where the concerns lie. They fell to 4th-ranked Virginia 7-2, then to 8th-ranked Princeton. This would normally be fine for any team, except this is a squash team that came into the season with very high expectations. They're now ranked 8th, but now that Virginia is 5-0, who knows how long that is going to last. The team needs to gear up against big teams to maintain expectations, but with new players, including Ian Blatchford, bringing a vibrant energy to this team, there are still hopes that this team can bring their A game going into the rest of the season.
The women's swim team is off to a busy start this season, having put up a competitive front at the TYR Fall Classic, finishing up with an overall 5th place standing. Going on to defeat Boston College in their home opener earlier this season, first-year Stein Omdahl-Peterson slated at the top of the charts in the breaststroke after having been named A10 Rookie of the Week prior to the meet. This team fell short against Virginia Tech 208-87, but they were able to pick up the slack against Howard, with senior Gemma Atherley leading the way with a double victory in the 100 and 200 free. The team has a busy schedule ahead of them this season and will be there covering every step of the way.
The men's swim team is performing similarly to last year's run, but now with a new group of freshmen taking form after the departure of numerous seniors last year. New year George Espougalis has dominated the 100-yard breaststroke, finishing first against a meet that saw the likes of Johns Hopkins, Navy, and Towson. Freshman Tyler Kawamaki got A10 Rookie of the Week honors after a stellar performance against Howard. Helping this class of breakout freshmen are the senior class, led by former A10 Most Outstanding Performer and friend of the show, Moritz Fa. With their continuation of greatness, mixed with the optimism of this new freshman class, it looks like the team will be making even bigger splashes this season.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we're back, Parker and Isabelle will jump into our Hot Takes segment that you just won't want to miss.
Hi, Colonials! Did you know there are hundreds of ways for you to volunteer with GW? Each year, over 1,500 alumni, parents, and friends contribute thousands of hours to make our community stronger. There are countless ways you can volunteer, so it's easy to choose an opportunity that is most meaningful to you, like connecting with students and alumni based on your student involvement, identity, or personal interests. Getting involved with your local alumni network. Mentoring a current student via our online mentoring platform. Connecting with prospective students through undergraduate admissions opportunities. Serving on an industry network leadership council. Becoming a social media ambassador. The list goes on. No matter where you are in the world or how much time you have to give, you can connect and volunteer with GW. And the best part, it's easy to get involved. Just visit alumni.gwu.edu/volunteer to learn more about these and other opportunities. Because of your service to GW, you are able to make a direct impact on the lives of former, current, and future students. We look forward to working with you. Raise high!
Welcome back. It's time for Hot Takes. I'm your host, Savannah Gaida. The rules here are very simple. I'll ask a question to our two anchors, and they will get into heated arguments with each other for your viewing pleasure. Our first topic today, buzzer beaters. The GW men's basketball team fell to American University 67-65 due to a buzzer beater by American. The GW women's basketball team, on the other hand, was triumphant over the University of Memphis 64-63, also credited to a buzzer beater by GW. How do we feel about buzzer beaters given these conflicting circumstances? Isabelle, let's hear your thoughts.
Well, let me just say, I was there in the flesh at the American buzzer beater game, and let me tell you, the energy in the Smith Center was astounding. And even that energy couldn't get the team to score the last 2 points that we needed to go into halftime, or to go into overtime. And so I know, Parker, you're going to disagree with me when I say this, but I still think there's hope. Obviously, the women's team knows how to actually win a buzzer beater, but I will say that I think there is hope for the men's team going forward. Like I said, that energy in the Smith Center really does do a lot for them, but hopefully it can carry them forward going through to these really tight games that they're ending up losing, and I definitely think that they should look to the women as an example.
I'm going to agree and disagree with you. I think they should. I'm going to agree with you in the fact that they should look at the women's team. I'm going to disagree in the sense that they're not good for this. They're not good for these teams. For the men's team, I like their talent. I didn't really compliment them that well when we were talking about the men's basketball team. I really like their future in terms of their talent. It's just utilization of key players, but going forward, I mean, we've seen it time and time again. It has been the culture with this team, and it needs to be disrupted in some way, shape, and form, and it has to be with these new players. And so I think it's a bad thing, especially for this men's team. And I think, again, it's a tale of two different stories here, right? So if you're looking at the men's team, it's what they've been used to. For this women's team, I think it's slightly different. And I think I actually might agree with you in that circumstance, in the sense of you feel the energy in the Smith Center, and I think they are able to execute on those, right? Especially in close games, I think they can pull through and pull away, especially when they're at home. And again, especially with this depth, I think you have a lot of players that can come through in the clutch. Look at Zambrata and her ability, one, only to play with Louisville and to get them to their standing point in the Final Four. You're looking at Nila Luma. She's had a lot of experience with that, right? And so I think there's a lot of players on the women's team that can give them that success. On the men's team, they still need to prove themselves, especially with Jameer Nelson Jr. He's a freshman. There's still a lot of time with this team, and we need to make sure that they are able to implement that. So again, I will agree and disagree with you there. I think it's bad for the men's team. I think it could be good for the women's team.
All right, guys, great points. I'm going to have to give this one to Parker. I like your statements about the elaborativeness of both teams, and I must say I personally don't like buzzer beaters, and I think that in terms of the men's team, they definitely should have had a much greater lead above American. The game did not have to come down to a buzzer beater, because a buzzer beater is such a toss-up. It either goes in the basket or it doesn't. So it really puts things into perspective where, you know, you have a team like GW that should have been winning that game. And then in terms of the women's team, I also do believe they should have been in a much higher place than they were. 64 to 63, they should have scored at least 70 points in that game. The game also did not have to come down to a buzzer beater. In their case, they got very lucky, which is great, but I think moving forward, we should see higher points on the board. Moving on to volleyball. GW Volleyball senior setter Jamison Lee has had some incredible achievements with GW Volleyball over the course of her 4-year career here in Foggy Bottom. Will the team struggle without her presence on the court next year? Parker, any ideas?
Well, I'm going to preface what I say by saying she has been incredible for this team. She's been a trendsetter. You look at her assists, 173 assists. The second closest person is Bella Bowman with 79. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous, right? And so I'm not discrediting her. I think she's fantastic. I think she's done a lot for the team. I think they're in good hands, though. You look at Skylar Aya, I think she's been doing really well for this team. You look at her kills, 383, really good for this team. You look at Patty Val, I think she's been doing really well this season. So I think you have a lot of people that can kind of step in that role, not necessarily with assists, and I think that's going to be their biggest gap going forward. But I think there's a lot of good things with this team. Now, sure, they were kind of this close to 500 team this season, but I think there's a lot of optimism, especially if they do well with recruiting. That's going to be the big thing, too, looking in the years to come. But I think there's a lot of optimism outside of the assists aspect of it. I think they're going to be good going forward.
Sure, Parker, you make a lot of good points, and it's really been a pleasure to get to see this women's team really grow this season. I actually had the chance to interview Jamison, and she really does care a lot about this team and just her personal journey as a player throughout her 4 years here at GW. It really shows. Her leadership skills are amazing, and you know, so many of the younger players really do look up to her. So I guess that's where I really do fear that her presence will be missed, because she does carry such a personal weight on the team. I definitely think that that's something that you can't replace with other players. However, like you said, I do think that there are some key players this season, like Skylar, like a lot of the younger players who are now up and coming. There were a lot of really good freshman stars that came out this season. So I definitely think, like you said, there definitely is room to improve, but Jamison's presence will definitely be missed next season, and how they're going to improve upon that, I'm not exactly sure, given how unpredictable this season was. I'm not entirely sure that losing a key player like Jamison is what they need going into next season.
All right, we're going to give this one to our volleyball expert, Isabelle. I think that in terms of stats, obviously Jamison Lee brought a lot to the table, and she carried this team, especially in assists. However, they are in good hands because they do have a lot of talent, a lot of up-and-coming talent. They just recently signed 3 new players that will be joining the team next season. So the team is in good hands, and I also do believe that Jamison did bring good energy to the table, so we will be missing that, but the team does have a lot of cohesion among each other, so they will do great regardless. Tensions might rise during today's final hot take. In true Thanksgiving spirit, Isabelle, Parker, what is the best Thanksgiving dish?
I mean, I don't think there's much of an argument here. It is stuffing. There's absolutely no argument here. Every single person, you know, you might skip over the turkey, you might skip over the whatever else people eat, the mashed potatoes, the Brussels sprouts, all the veggies. You always have the stuffing. No matter what you want, you always get the stuffing. So I'm going to just lay that out on the table. Discussion's over.
Isabelle, there's so much wrong to your argument. One, stuffing's disgusting. I want to put that out there. No one eats the stuffing. Number two, mashed potatoes are great, all right? Bad rap against mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes are great. Here's why I'm going to lose this argument, and I'm going to lose both of you. Green bean casserole is actually the best thing that you can have in Thanksgiving. Hear me out. You have some onions on top. You get some fried onions on top. You get the green beans in there. You get the canned green beans because that's the best one. Put a little bit of French or mushroom soup in there, you know, kind of flavor it up. But stuffing's disgusting. I want to reiterate that point. Mashed potatoes are always a great second option, but I know I'm going to lose it. I know, I know there's no hope for me now, but I'm going to say green bean casserole is the best.
Parker, let me ask you, was it worth it? Was the green bean casserole worth you losing your final hot takes before you go abroad?
100%.
All right.
100%.
Definitely not green bean casserole. I like stuffing. Not my favorite, but I tolerate it. I would have to say definitely mashed potatoes with my mom's homemade gravy.
Yes.
And my sister's creamed spinach.
Ooh.
Everything that everyone else cooks because I sit on the couch watching TV. Football. Yeah. So congratulations to Isabelle for winning hot takes. And now for our avid GWU sports fans, here are some highlight performances that embody GWU's campus motto, Raise High. Last episode, we talked about Suzanne Danaheim, a senior on the women's cross-country team. She received all conference honors for her second-place finish in the A10 championship. She also finished 7th in the 6K of the NCAA regional race, which qualified her for the NCAA national race. Danaheim has set many school records this season, such as the third fastest 6K time in GW history with a time of 20 minutes and 24.6 seconds at the NCAA regionals. Her Colonial of the Week recognition was certainly well-deserved. Moving on to volleyball, senior Jamison Lee was named A10 Player of the Week due to her outstanding performances in her final 2 games as a Colonial in the Smith Center. She had one of her best games of her career against Fordham, achieving her 12th double-double of the season with 57 assists and 24 digs. She's now 42 assists away from ranking 6th in the most assists of all time at GW. Another athlete that is very familiar with double-doubles is men's basketball forward Arnaldo Toro. Toro channeled his inner beast mode, achieving a double-double against Howard University with 22 points and 18 rebounds, and against American University with 20 points and 24 rebounds. He also tied the Atlantic 10 record for most rebounds in a single game with 24 rebounds against American. Coming back from a minor lower body injury against Morgan State, we hope to see Toro back in his regular rebounding habits very soon.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Parker, we will miss you when you're abroad. Can't wait when you get back.
Well, I can't wait for the content you guys are going to be posting. Don't forget to check out Unstoppable next semester. We have all the winter and spring sports content that you could ever wish for. Don't forget to check us out also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at GW-TV. And don't forget to check out GWTV_Unstoppable. The team there is doing an amazing job on social media. Please check that out. You will not regret hitting that follow button on Instagram.
Or check out more packages and exclusive content like our interview with cross-country and tennis teams over on our Instagram, like Parker said. Parker, bon voyage.
See you guys next time.
I'm thankful for my friends, my family, my Unstoppable family, and Doug Zimmerman, because none of this would happen without him.
I'm thankful for my parents, my sister, my friends, my Unstoppable family, and most importantly,
my grandparents, who watch every single one of my broadcasts and don't understand a single word of English.
I'm thankful for all those Vex drivers working tirelessly day after day to make sure I get to class on time.
I'm thankful for my friends, my GWU TV family, and of course the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm thankful for Tom Brady.
I'm thankful for my mom and for green bean casserole for always staying with me.
I'm thankful for my friends, my family, and my GWU Unstoppable.
I'm thankful for my parents, my roommate Alpha, and my lady at Captain Cookie for supporting me through all the rough times this semester.
I'm thankful for my family, friends, and good health.
I'm thankful for my parents, my sister, and my unstoppable family.
I'm thankful for my friends and my health.
Happy Thanksgiving!